welcome to People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. Hello, Ginny Gane. Welcome to the People of Purpose podcast. Wonderful to see your smiling face in sunny Florida today. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Tanner. It's great to be here. And I know it's even earlier for you than me. Tanner was making fun of me a little bit because he's like, it's not that early.
Yeah. But it's 8:30 a.m. for me, 9:30 a.m. for you. And we're here to talk about your journey, your purpose. I'm really excited. Seems like, I know you said it's early, but you look full of energy. So I think we'll do just fine today.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things, like even just jumping in there is part of this life that I've created very intentionally is the flexibility and the freedom to kind of do what I love, when I want, where I want. And that is part of this. So a lot of the, my days usually will start around 10 and 11 is when I jump on a call, and I'm doing other, kind of personal work before and kind of what I call alignment work. But that was something that was really important for me in my days to have that in my lifestyle, to have that sort of flexibility in the, what I'm doing for my career stuff.
Of course. Yeah. The flexible lifestyle is wonderful. It allows you to kind of like follow your flow state a little bit more. It seems like.
Exactly. So much space for that. Yeah. I think we don't kind of acknowledge or give that enough credit, that place where to follow that inspiration. Our lives are so full.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm happy to have you on the show today. You filled out our guest document, and when I read it, I was like, wow, this girl has been a master of this since 9 years old. This is really exciting.
Maybe not 9 years, maybe not a master since 9. And I don't know, I feel like I'm still in this process of mastering. I don't know if we ever get there, but yeah, lots of practice. So since I was 9, I've been just exploring the power of the mind, to put it in a really kind of basic way, just understanding that our thoughts have influence and power over how we feel and over how our life shows up and our experience that we're creating. This idea that, like, I'm so passionate, it's not even an idea, the reality that we get to create our reality. Like every single human on the planet has an experience, and it's not because life is so different for everyone. There has to be some element of like what's going on inside us. You know what I mean? Like there's some connection here between what happens inside each human and what they experience in their life. And so I'm just so passionate about helping people discover that connection for themselves and how they can like be in their power in terms of creating the kind of experience they want in life, which obviously has a lot to do with their purpose and following their purpose. Yeah, exactly.
I heard a couple of things, like you get to create your own reality, be in their power. I guess there's a lot of questions, but you said it's connected to purpose. How do you see this being connected to purpose? Because I think on one hand, purpose is something that like you have a calling or a duty to fulfill. It's not as much as like I'm creating this purpose. It's like I've been given it since birth. But then there's another interpretation of like maybe my purpose is to be creative and to find what I can create in the world. So how do you think through this?
Oh, it's such a juicy topic. So I really align with Eckhart Tolle's teachings on purpose, and he defines it as you have an internal purpose and an external purpose, and that every human shares the same internal purpose, which is to like basically awaken, right? Become the best versions of ourselves and to realize our fullest potential, to kind of get out of our ego identified mind place and really live connected to our soul place. And so it's like it's about being. Our internal purpose is just about being present with life, with who we are, and not restricting this flow of life. So that's the internal purpose. And it's a very brief general description. And then the external purpose comes from the internal purpose. So we could also talk about the internal purpose as like a state of being. So when we're in a state of joy in any situation, we're now inspired to take different actions, or creativity can kind of come out through us, or we can be creative from that internal state. And so this external purpose is about the actions we're taking and the things we're doing. And I think that's a lot of what people only think about the external purpose, right? When they're like, I got to find my purpose and live my purpose. And they're just looking for what to do. What can I do that will fulfill me, kind of thing, right? And I think we actually get so off track because there's no action, there's nothing outside of us that can fulfill us, that can solely fulfill us. It has, our experience of fulfillment comes from inside, right? Have you ever experienced, Tanner, like doing something and it feels great for a little while, but then it loses its like juice? It doesn't feel the same anymore.
I think most things are like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a great example of how we can take an action, but if we don't have first the internal kind of what I call alignment or state of being, then we're not experiencing that action as powerfully as we can.
So are you saying you're not ready to receive the internal benefits of that action? Is that what you're saying? I think we work from the inside out. Yep. So I don't think, I think we have the power to maintain, to create an internal experience for ourselves. So how we feel, basically how we feel. And then that how we feel is what creates the external. I think that's our power. So instead of like doing things or accomplishing things to make us feel a certain way, right? So I got to like make this much money in order to feel like I'm a good person. We have the power to use our thoughts to understand, to connect that, hey, we are a good person. We have innate value. And then from that place, then we can do things and accomplish things in a much easier way. Does that make sense? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So like when we talk about creating our reality, it's like we create our internal experience, and then the law of attraction responds by bringing you things that match that.
Right. So when we create our internal experience, we're not creating from some external measurement system or external events coming into our life. We're measuring it off of like, do we feel abundant? Do we feel alive? Do we feel free? Do we feel happy? Do we feel inspired? So it's about conjuring up those feelings first.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And the difference in that is like we're taught, our whole society is taught and conditioned to take action and work hard to get what we want. That's the measurement of success and worthiness and value. And that is one path. We can do that, but it's not so enjoyable, and it's a lot harder in terms of effort than it needs to be. So when we do it this other way, when we control what we can control, which is inside of us, right? Then we let this law, like the law of gravity that already exists, match and bring us the stuff and the steps and the path a lot easier. It doesn't mean it's not going to require, of course it requires action and effort, but it's the experience of that journey is so much different. It's so much more enjoyable.
For sure. Definitely. Of course. Well, let's break down your journey a little bit. I want to start like with kind of where you came from. I think it makes it relatable. Because a lot of people listening are on some part of their path of purpose. I think a lot of people are most likely towards the beginning part of this. And so I want to kind of hear the beginnings of your journey. Like, where did you start to feel these like tensions of like, oh, I can manifest my purpose by going internal and conjuring up these feelings to have these external events that, allow for me to have a purposeful life. How did that transition for you take place? Or have you just always been this like wise sage around these topics?
Well, definitely it's been a journey for me, and I didn't even uncover the law of attraction or like come across what the law of attraction was until I was about 24 when I read my first like Abraham Hicks book. And so, or a little bit younger than that, early 20, 21 or something. Anyways, and so I was always interested in self-growth, like being like mindset stuff. And I went to school for that, study the mind-body connection, but I never really had the clarity of like how life works. I was still always questioning like, well, how do I get that? Well, there must be something better. Like there was always this question or this sense that it could be better, that it didn't have to be like seeing so many people struggle for work all the time and spend their whole life working and just basically seeing a lot of unsatisfied people. There's this sense, right? Like it's got to be better than that. Like that question about life was all like, why are we here was often, so like, what's our purpose was always floating in the back of my mind. And so when I discovered the law of attraction and how it works and this idea, everything just clicked. And so I read that book, I started practicing it, I started exploring the law of attraction, and it was just so natural. Like everything just made sense. And so I could start to apply it and I would talk about it and I get so lit up, like talking about it. And then that's actually how I got into coaching and teaching is, one of my friends said to me like, oh, you're basically my law of attraction coach. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? And then obviously I uncovered, I'm like, oh, I can do what I love and make money doing what I love. And this is amazing. And so it's been just a constant unfolding. And the more you're on this path, the more you naturally learn and grow and know it more and more. And I think one of the biggest shifts is when you see it happen in your life, like you experience the power. And so, which is like a conscious awareness of how you're creating your life. So everybody's creating their own reality right now, whether we know it or not. Right. And so once I was traveling when I first learned about law of attraction, and then so I started to pay attention. I started to pay attention to how when I feel like this, or when I have these thoughts about a relationship or what's coming up, a friendship or relationship, and I can see them play out. Like I'm like, when I know that I have negative thoughts about this person in my life, and my experience with them is very stressful. And then I watched as I changed my thoughts and feelings about that person, how the relationship changed. Or when I changed my thoughts and feelings and stories about a situation, say it was work in my life, I watched that unfold in my life. And so it's soon as you start to pay attention, it's everywhere. And the more and more you experience seeing it happen in your own life, you just start to live this way, like live very powerfully and feeling connected with life.
Yeah. So your conviction to the truth of this this ability grow and grow and grow to where it just becomes like this unwavering faith that you do these things again. And,
the evidence is undeniable. And like the biggest thing is you feel it. One of my favorite kind of truths to come back to is like, how do you know something is true? Like, how do you know truth? because there's not one truth for everyone in this whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know truth by how it feels. Like there's some sort of inner something within you. And so as you walk this path, there's some sort of acceptance within you. You start to feel and accept your own truth. Like you start to realize, okay, this is true for me the more you're experiencing it. And then you get to choose, and you get to choose what you want to be true for you by if you're accepting it into your reality in your life.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me see if I want to give a more specific example, because I can see that's kind of like way abstract. So like, let's say how we're conditioned in our world. Like you grow up, think people telling you, so this, one of them that I get that I grew up with, and I don't know why, but it was just there, I guess society is like, you have to work hard to make money, right? That's one for a lot of people. You got to work hard to make money. And so because it's just that conditioned belief, like on some level, we've accepted that as truth. But when you realize you start to create your own reality, you start to question that, and you get to ask the question, is this true for me? Do I want this to be true for me? And most people don't want to have to work hard to, live and make money. And so soon as you open that door to a new possible reality, you can start to create a different experience for yourself.
Right.
So it's just first like asking the question, what if that didn't have to be true for me? Now you're going to have a whole world that's going to show you it's true, but is it true? Are there people that have money and make money that feel joyful and that it's easy? Yes, 100%. So So coming back to like, what is a truth? Well, if people make money easily and people make money working hard, what is true? Right. So we get go ahead.
Yeah, I've noticed in the entrepreneurship path, you meet these people that are working 5 hours a week, 4-hour work week, 10 hours a week, whatever. And they are, they have a $10 million company or whatever. So it's like, you start to see actual examples that go kind of counter to like the traditional beliefs. And then you're like, well, is this a truth I want to adopt? Absolutely. And then you find yourself having to decondition, unlearn, deprogram what you were raised around. And then, I go to like my grandma's house for dinner, my mom's house or whatever, and they're asking me about, what are your goals in your business and stuff? And I'm like, my goal is to like work less and make more and have like an awesome culture and doing that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, that sounds like a great dream, but like, yeah. So it's like,
but get to reality here, Tanner. Come on, be realistic.
I'm like, well, I just read a book about this, and we just met Max, who I just interviewed about his business, and he's, selling it for $100 million and he works 3 hours a week. Like, I think I can do these things. You know, so it's like choosing what to work on. And it seems like you first work on yourself to discover different truths than you were probably raised around is I guess a big part of the work that you have to do. Is that what you go through initially with clients?
Yes, that's an amazing way to kind of generalize it, is like once you realize you have the power to create your own reality, then you start to get to choose your truths. Okay, well, what do I want to be true for me? And then you just start to practice that, and you start to step into being that person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so if we kind of connect it to purpose and why this is important, is that I believe like we're all here we're all unique, right? There's something inside us that is unique. And part of our awakening or purpose on this planet is to express that. And like we talked about before, it's going to come out in actions. But if you first find out who you are, if you first like find out and know who you really are, then though the external purpose comes out naturally. And this, like the first part of this, knowing who you really are, is all about knowing your power and defining your truths and like being that person who is being true to who they really are. And then when from that, you're, like I said, you're naturally inspired to the action. So for, one person, it's going to be some element of creativity and artistic or singing or acting. Another person that's going to be managing people, and it's going to be getting creative with systems or innovative. Like there's so many different ways this purpose or the inner truth can come out. But we first have to like connect with that inner truth. Otherwise, we're just trying to control things outside of us and manage things outside of us, which we actually don't have control over.
What do you think are our most like limiting, like this sounds so attractive to people. I would imagine you don't get a bunch of people like, hey, I don't want that. But like, what are the biggest objections or limiting beliefs when you first are working with people, or meeting people in your life around, these concepts?
Yeah. The biggest shift that like takes a while to really fully embody it's a mindset shift that individuals are 100% responsible for how they feel.
Okay.
And how you feel creates your experience. So when I start to introduce this idea, or when we introduce this idea of like, okay, great. Yeah, I can control how I feel. And then someone, say they're running a company and the company does a bad month or has a bad client or something. And then their reaction is like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And I'm like, oh, in that place, are you controlling how you feel? And they're like, no, well, he did this to me. Like, I don't control what he did. So it's a major, major shift of instead of giving away your power, you actually fully own how you feel. And when you make that shift, when someone makes that shift of starting to take responsibility for how they feel, their whole world will change. Their whole world will change.
What did your world look like? Did you ever have a time where you didn't take control over your feelings and your reality? And how did you get through that period? Oh my gosh,
yes, totally. And I mean, I don't know if I've fully mastered this either. I think it's a continuous evolution, but when in partnerships or relationships, I always used to blame the other person. I'm like, this didn't work because they're like that. They're too negative. Or even with friends and family, like relationships was a huge, or business. Like, I learned this everywhere. Okay. So relationships, if a relationship isn't working out, or if we're getting into arguments, or if they didn't do this and I'm feeling upset, that is all me giving away my power. And that happened over and over. And it was a huge kind of wake up. And there was two or three big shifts within me where I was like, oh, that relationship, it wasn't that they were bad to me or something, or that they were too negative. It was that I was also a part of that, right? Because everything is a co-creation. And so it's uncomfortable at first to realize we're a part of creating our life experience sometimes, but it's so empowering. And so an example in business or career. So a lot of people, you were saying, a lot of your audience is like stuck in work. They're working in a place they don't necessarily want to be, and they want to make that shift. And so it's super, super important to step into your power as an employee in this company and realize we have a choice of how we're responding to this work environment. So say the boss comes down with a new thing and you don't want to do it, or you're required extra time, learning to manage your response instead of just reacting is what's going to create the space for you to create something different.
Yeah, of course. So it's like how you process news. It's also about being mindful to your reaction and not letting that create, because the opposite effect can take place when you're feeling negativity, when you're feeling scarcity, when you're feeling jealousy, anger, fear. Those things can create external realities for you as well.
Absolutely. And my favorite, so like in my coaching and teaching, I talk a lot about like vibration, and we know what vibration we're kind of communicating to the world by how we feel. And so if we're in a really negative work environment and we're feeling a lot of negativity, and we're on some level, we're aligned with that. And so we can't wait for the work to change. I mean, we can change jobs, and that sometimes helps, but we always take our vibration with us. So if we're feeling really negative and we're always triggered by work and we're like, this place sucks, I got to get out of here, and we go somewhere new, it's going to be great for a while. And then you're going to create the same or a similar experience because you create by your vibration, by who you're being. And that's you. So you've got to shift what's going on in you before you're going to have a different experience outside.
And how do you recommend people come back to this? Because I get that, you can hold this as an intellectual concept in your head, but all the intelligence goes away when you are frustrated, angry, pissed off, and you don't see that this has been a pattern. It takes lots of times it seems like it takes some major wake-up call, like a big trauma to happen or to hit rock bottom before you're really like, fully committed to this. What do you recommend people do to like set up systems in their life that can remind them of these truths, especially early on when they're learning how to make them habits?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So I do believe that process that you described of like having this wake up call or hitting rock bottom, I think that's one way we wake up. But I do think there is I don't even want to say new, just a different way where we can wake ourselves up. That's what like this consciousness is about, is instead of waiting for it to get so bad, we can start to pay attention now and create more of what we want now, create new from a place of consciousness, from a place of awareness, from a place of feeling good. We don't have to wait till it's so bad. We don't have to be forced into the change, because that's often just letting the struggle build up and build up. And so the thing to practice is your awareness. If that's the only thing you practice, that will begin to open and shift and change things. So this kind of shifting is way easier than we most often make it out to be. And so if all we do is pay attention, that's always the first step, is like just noticing like, oh, what are my thoughts about this? And how do I feel about this? Because if we don't know that, we can't shift it. We don't even know there's something different, right? We're not aware that there's a different option. And so, and in order to be able to, like what the question you asked, how do we catch it in that moment? We have to develop a sensitive awareness. We have to be more aware more often. And the only way you develop your awareness is by practicing, by starting to pay attention. And, like the simplest way could be set an alarm for 3 times a day or 1 time a day, and say, when it goes off, it's like, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about?
Yeah.
Like, what's your focus right now? How are you feeling right? What are you communicating to the world right now? To the universe? So you just start to pay attention to what's going on inside you. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And then what happens, and it's super cool, is what you can catch yourself in the middle of a reaction, right? So something goes off and you say, you're looking at your bank account, and you're like, oh, there's no money. Then you're like, oh, you can catch it right away. You can catch your reaction. And then you can say, oh, is this how I want to respond? And then you have choice in how you respond. But that first most foundational place is awareness.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's important, a common thing almost every guest on this show has, is they have some sort of meditation practice, some sort of journaling practice, some sort of time and space to create awareness and consciousness. I think another little thing that I would add is during these transition points, let's go back to the employee example. it's 11:50, you finish your work, you have about 10 minutes till your lunch break. Let's use these 10 minutes to be like super mindful about what we're doing, to get back to that. Like Abraham Hicks talks about how you need to like get back to that kind of like neutral state to be able to, get back in your power. You have all these like little like, I don't know, circuits that are like kind of going, and you can like bring them back to like a place of stillness, and then you can create the more positive, energizing ones as well.
Absolutely.
So I think during these transition periods is really important. It's like going to the bathroom. Can you do something mindful, around that time, lunchtime, walking outside, getting in your car, about to step into, a hard conversation. Rather than like just unconsciously bringing our baggage into these things, we can stop and pause, and it doesn't even need to be long. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I call that, so when we were talking earlier about like coming back to what's true for you, or coming back to your truth, that's that place of truth, is that inner kind of connection. And I often call that like ground yourself in your truth. Like just come back for a second to who you really are.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. I love like, nerding out about these things. It's really fun.
I know.
So your purpose statement, you say, go ahead.
One question. How did you get into this? Like, what was your path?
I would say probably a few different podcast guests really solidified this for me. I've had this podcast for 4 years now. And towards the beginning, I had on some impactful people. I was living in San Francisco teaching and doing a 1-year master's program, and it was just so overwhelming. Like I was getting paid almost nothing. I was working about 70 hours a week. The school I was in was really challenging. Like a lot of the kids were like behind on their performance, and like were acting up, and there were fights at school every week and all this kind of thing. And I was just like really like challenged in every area of my life. And at the time I was in a long distance relationship with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, who was in Thailand, because I had been living in Thailand before that. And I just started like listening to, Abraham Hicks was probably my first big one. It's like doing her like morning wake up meditation thing. Today's will be a good day. Today we'll have
cool.
It's like little mantras, That's probably where it really started. And then I started to see it take shape, and then I just started to just like really trust it. It's like I need to like make big jumps in my life. I was just like feel these things, and like, well, that feels good to, if you can step into this future reality that you're considering doing, like moving to Thailand or getting married or these like big decisions. I would like step into that future space during a meditation and be like, I feel really peaceful. I feel whole. I feel good about this. Like, let's make that decision. And then I would notice like when my vibration would get low, I think it's important to like, you can't expect yourself to always just be in this high vibration. I think that sometimes that external reality is more powerful than what you've conjured up internally, because maybe you are not, you don't have enough food, you don't have enough energy, you don't have sleep, your stress levels have been high for a long period of time. I don't think it's completely your fault sometimes that you like, maybe the external reality can bring in that bad vibration. But it's like not letting that like tear you down and ruin you, I think is important as well.
That's like a great point, is talking about blame, because I think that's one of the biggest things. Like sometimes we're like, okay, I'm not supposed to blame other people, or I'm not supposed to blame the outside. And then we bring it right back on us. Fine, it's my fault. And that doesn't serve us either. So my favorite, what I teach is like, does there have to be blame? Can you just release blame? Does there need to be can we do no blame in this situation? What if it didn't have to go anywhere? Right. Yeah. And because blaming ourselves, or even like when we know we've manifested an experience we don't want, blaming ourselves does not help us shift out of that. And so,
and I think nowadays the person that influences me a lot in this space is Joe Dispenza. Do you know his work?
Yeah. So great.
Yeah, he's really good. I do his meditations like a lot of mornings.
That's awesome.
On the weekends, I try to do like an hour. He has like a few that are like about an hour or more in length, and those get really deep for me. I really love
Yeah,
them.
that's so cool. So when you were talking and you're saying like you kind of go inside to see if these decisions are for you, when we talk about purpose and like following that path, that's where we get that information, right? Like when you're kind of quieting your mind and going inside, you can get those answers. You can get that guidance based on that place, tuning into that place inside you. And then you know what the next best step on your path is.
Yeah. And it's incredible about how, like, you know, when you're running a business, you have all these like challenges and problems and things you've never seen or experienced before. You're constantly at the edge of your comfort zone. You have to, you know, step up and, you know, deal with this fire or build this thing or put down this $8,000 payment, hoping that it will return a benefit. There's all these things that you have to do. And I think it's really productive to like not be productive for a while and like sit there and like feel. And then somehow the work gets done for you. You get these like clear visions of like, these are like the 2 or 3 things I just need to do right now. And those will put in motion like this domino effect that like, you know, this problem will take care of itself. I don't need to like play whack-a-mole and like come up with instant solutions from like my thinking brain. There's something much deeper in there that will inform my intelligence at the right time in the right space when I feel the right way. So the work is
Tanner,
getting to that place. Yeah.
Exactly. That is like what this is all about, is like tuning into that inner place and like letting that guide our actions, guide our next steps, and trusting that inner place. Because you said it perfectly. It is so much wiser than what the answers our brain will come up with. Our mind is amazing, but not at controlling or determining the how of things.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. I 100% agree with that. You have this camp. You know, this has been a vision of mine that's come up a lot, is to live in a community with people. I'm always really drawn to the education spaces. Like I think I'm a teacher at heart. That's probably like a space of service that I like to be in. So like, what is this Law of Attraction Skills Camp, and you know, how did you manifest that?
Yeah. Well, it was really cool because it came from that inner inspiration about when I first started my business in 2013. And so I literally it was after some really joyful time in my life. Like I went out for exercise and I had seen my friends and I was playing with my puppy, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend some time on my business now. And I'm like, I like this question, like, what would you want? What's the most important thing you want to share with the world? And then it just kind of came to me like I kind of came up with the 4 main things I'd want to teach people. And then I'm like, okay, those are like skills. Like we have like life skills, you know, we don't learn life skills. We learn things in school. We learn how to do math and how to read and write, but we don't learn how to like do life. And I'm like, this is where people's power lies. And so then I'm like, these are like LOA skills. And then that kind of name just came to me, LOA skills. And it started out as this like PDF of 4 skills. And I just wrote about it and I shared it. And it was like $11. You can get this, you know, access to this information. And it was such a fun progression because it was so inspired. And then it's become a week course that, you know, I guide people through stepping into their power. It's evolved. It's got so much more detailed and practical and powerful. And so that's one of I just started with someone yesterday. And I just get so excited about people stepping into their power, people knowing that they can feel powerful in their life to get what they want. There's nothing better than that.
For sure. So I saw that you kind of defined your purpose as being a vessel for unconditional love to flow through and inspire others to know their truth. What is this purpose? How do you explain it? How'd you come up with this?
Yeah, it came to me I was in a yoga teacher training a number of years back, and we had to write out our, I forget what the instructor called it, but it was something around our core purpose. And that is what came to me. And I So I believe that we are, as humans, like we're vessels for information, and that I want to be that. I think our truth is love. Our core truth is love, and coming from that source place. And so I want to be a vessel for that, for people to know that in their own life, that they're powerful and they have value, and that they get to choose their truth and follow that path that is best for them, that we don't have to be confined by what society has said is right or true, that we get to walk our own paths, and that that's actually our purpose, is for us to be an individual, to express our truth and what we're called to in this world. Yeah. And it's almost like, I don't want to tell other people what's right for them. I want them to discover it. I want them to tune into their own inner guidance and to feel that within themselves.
Yeah, 100%. That's super true. You need to have that philosophy towards, it's not like you're supposed to be someone's, I guess what the Western world thinks of guru as, is someone that like fixes people and makes them, who they should be. That's not your role. Your role is like to open people up to this and increase their awareness and all that.
Yes. And that's it. That's all we do, is like, as coaches or teachers, guide someone to their own intelligence.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the most powerful place. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest differences, and I think you'll get this, Tanner, is like, we have to be the example before we can teach it to other people. Like I have to, if I didn't know my own power, I mean, I might not have mastered it, but if I didn't know, like have this experience inside me, I can't hold that space or give it to someone else. We can only give what we have. And so when we're not coaching and teaching coaching isn't about giving knowledge. We're wanting to hold space for this person to have the transformation that they want. And so it's I don't want to say different, but it's so important for someone who's coaching someone else to have experienced and to be able to hold the space, like that inner space that you were talking about, like when you connect to your guidance, like, and what's right. You can't help someone connect to their guidance unless you've already connected to yours. Like, it's like being the example, like what Abraham talks about. You have to be in that vibrational space to draw someone there as well. Yeah,
for sure.
I get really excited about this concept of like vibrational leadership. Like being the vibrational example of what you want to guide others to. And I think this can go, like, this applies everywhere. It applies in parenting. It applies in politics. It applies in team sports. It applies in relationships. Like, you can't be waiting for someone else to give you this feeling. You want to lead with, or CEOs or business owners, right? Lead with your vibration, lead with the space you're holding, how you're feeling, your trust in success and in abundance. You can't be full of fear and create an abundant company. It doesn't work that way, Yeah, exactly.
So before we started recording, I was telling you about this 21-year-old girl in our company that she's only been with us, I think, 3 months now. And she just thoroughly impresses me with like where she came from just like a few years ago to where she is now. Like she's very in line with the law of attraction mindset. And I love like the question she asked me. And last night she asked me like, what do you think it takes to be like a great leader of a company? And I was just like, one of the things I said was this thing is like, you have to be the person that models the behavior that and the core values that you want to see in your company. You have to have an unwavering commitment and belief that this business can succeed, that the people that you've hired can fulfill their role on the team. And you need to be able to see that like it's not all on you to figure everything out. You have to like, a lot of it is like letting go and trusting that other people, when they're in their zone of genius, can make the right smart decisions. And you have to trust that even if there is failure, you can reframe it as a learning and a growth opportunity. So I think a lot of being a leader is like, yeah, maintain that vibrational leadership. I don't necessarily need to go into every detail and department and figure out what's going on, because someone else is like so much closer to that than me. And that's like their like 10-year background or whatever isn't doing that. Not me. I don't have a 10-year specialization in anything. But I do know how to like continue to keep the vibrational leadership strong and like come back to our core values when we're making decisions and put ourselves in the paradigm of this rather than the paradigm of the world. And I think when you do those things, you've put yourself in a position to succeed, as an organization, not just, me individually.
And great. Like make a really powerful impact in the world with that energy. Like the energy that goes into all of our actions is what people feel. You can feel a business owner or a company that operates out of fear, or you can feel one that operates out of abundance. You feel it. Our customers feel it. That's that energy that we're putting into the world. And I love what you said about you don't have to, like, as a leader, you don't have to manage all these things. That's one of the biggest things, like trusting others to fulfill their potential. Like that is leadership. When you trust that this person is guided and this person knows this answer. And that's one of my favorite things to use a lot, actually, is every single person has their own inner being, right? Everybody's being guided. Everyone has that potential. And so as a leader, we get to acknowledge that. And the more we acknowledge that, now you're holding space for every employee in your company to reach the potential, because you're seeing their potential. That's like what the energy you're holding for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like how we kind of like talk about success rather than like, how much money they're making or whatever. Like, we're a startup company. No one's gotten rich yet from this business, including me. We've only been around a year and a half now, and we're growing quickly. Things look to be on the right track. We have awesome mentors and coaches. I think we have a great like core value system, and you feel this energy. And so it's like when all that excitement and vibrational power is behind what we're creating, like we are going to succeed. And we are succeeding right now. Look how you feel.
I was going to say, it is success now.
Yeah. So it's like reminding ourselves that like, look at the challenges and problems and stressors that we're facing now compared to where we were a year and a half ago. We've come so far, and we're still like living in our purpose. And if you don't feel like you are, then you need to like let me know so that we can figure out if you need to change your environment or something about your mindset, or if we need to do like a coaching session together, essentially. If there's a resource I can get you, if there's a habit we can try to develop and hold you accountable to. Like, I want this to be, I feel like business development is really intertwined with personal development. They go very hand in hand.
I always love to say that your business is a reflection of you.
Yeah.
It is. It reflects where you're at. And so how good you feel about yourself and your own self-growth, it reflects it and highlights it almost in your business.
Cool. Yeah. Well, you gave me some questions to ask you, unless you want to say something. What did you want to say?
You were talking and it inspired something in me about the growth and leadership and the code. I lost it. So
maybe it'll come back up.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I thought stood out to me that you had on your list is about like, what is one of your favorite manifesting stories? I'm just really curious, like, if you said you haven't mastered this, but if you have a high level of proficiency in this for 20 plus years, you've obviously manifested some incredible things in your life. Like, and those around you probably have as well. If that's who's like in your vibrational field on a consistent basis, as like friends, partners, family, etc. So what is like one of your favorite manifesting stories?
I think like one of the things I really like to talk about when we talk about, what have you manifested, is a lot about the experience. And so when I think about the experience that I've created in my life and how it feels like I live my dream life, and that I love where I am, and that it's continuing to expand. And I think that's kind of one of those manifesting sweet spots, is loving where you are and being excited for more, like what Abraham says, right? And so there's so many dreams and visions and like ideas and exciting things that we have that we're wanting in ways we want to go into our life. Like we want to have a home in the mountains. We want to spend summers in Canada. We want to have a family and have kids. And so all of this is unfolding. But if we as creators of our reality get too focused there or on what we want, we start to feel a sense of lack where we are. And I think that's one of those like really kind of beautiful balances that someone can find, is like loving where they are and at the same time being excited and open to what's unfolding.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Loving where you are and being excited. You need to have both. You don't want to feel that sense of lack.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have some questions around like kind of wisdom and purpose. What do you think is, what's like the most beautiful thing or feeling that you've ever experienced serving your purpose?
Oh, I don't know if you've had this experience, but there are not words to describe it. The words actually take away, but it's like, there's been two really powerful times. I mean, not specific, but two experiences. And it's when you're watching one of your clients, or when I'm watching one of my clients get it, like have the aha, feel their power. It comes from a number of different things, but it's an experience they have inside them. And just being present with that experience for them, there's no, like, that is one of the best feelings ever. You can't even, the word fulfillment doesn't really like come close. It's something deeper. It's like this co-creative connection. And it's like, that's the essence of life. That's why we're here, to experience that. And then the other part, the other area I feel this greatest fulfillment in is co-creating with others. So right now I'm working on a new course that we're going to launch in February, and it's called Awaken Your Truth. And I've been creating it from this place of source with another woman, another coach, and being aware and being in that unfolding together. Like it is so inspired. It is so like, we're just the vessels for it. And so like, yes, we have to take some action, but it's this awareness of what's unfolding. And it's so exciting. It's so that fulfillment. So like, that's kind of like being connected to our power and then seeing how that's being reflected in our life.
Yeah.
Feels like expressing of our purpose.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear. Yeah. And it's so interesting when you find like a partner, someone that like is resonating kind of, what you do already. You can really have this like, huge level of fulfillment. It's greater than just like 1 + 1 = 2. It's this synergy that gets created.
Yeah. I would also mention too, like I've been practicing a lot of just learning to acknowledge the value and like fulfillment of purpose in just being. So like when sometimes I'll take walks in the morning with Abraham in my ears, and I'll just feel kind of like very connected to life, very connected to my inner being and source. And that place, that like experience of total joy, of just joy of being, that feels like fulfillment of my purpose. Like I'm fully here and showing up for life. So I want to start to acknowledge that more. And I want people to start to acknowledge that more, that we don't have to be doing anything productive necessarily, what our mind would describe as productive, in order to be fulfilling our purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. Was it always this way for you? Like back in 2013 when you were starting your business, I would imagine you can't just like go on walks with Abraham and your business happen. You have to like do a lot of things, right?
Well, you'll be surprised, Tanner. It's like the stuff works. Like I spent at the beginning of my business was the time when I actually spent the most time daydreaming and napping and scripting. And I had some client calls and walking and hiking. Like I did some work, but it was getting the foundation to my business started was very, very inspired. And it's actually got a little, like in the middle there, it went a little bit into trying to make it happen and trying to build it and trying to control the process. And now it's coming back into its like total flow state and being guided by source. And it's easy and successful and thriving and fun. And that's where the energy is. That's the experience I want to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I was having this realization recently that like, I think I'm in the last, chapter of my life where like money is something that's like still feels like a little bit of a scarce resource. And I'm like want to appreciate, that I've been walking in this space of like, putting down credit card debt to start a business, moving to Thailand, getting married. She couldn't work for more than a year because she didn't have a green card, and like sorting through all that was like so much weight on me. But I loved it as well. And I feel like I'm exiting that period. And I grew up like with a single mom who was always below the poverty line. And her mindset was like, we get these coupons, we go to these stores. We don't go to this gas station because it's 3 cents more. We drive 10 minutes to this one. And it was like, I'm exiting this reality now as I turn 30. And it's just a really interesting, does any of that relate to you? Like,
oh yeah. And I think we all have to, I think that is part of our core purpose. Like that primary purpose is to release all those beliefs and truths that we learned. Like when we grow up in scarcity, we did the same thing. We would drive 10 minutes across town to like save 3 cents on the gas. And so we learn that growing up, it's all we know, we accept it as true. And then, so this awakening is releasing those old stuff and coming into that, oh, hey, I get to choose what's true for me. And that just takes time, and practice. And exactly what you're doing, like the commitment to your vision and to the reality that you are creating. Yeah, totally. And I think that's something sometimes like it can be something different for everybody. Like, and it usually is going to fall into, love relationships or finances or physical body, those are kind of our main, but those are all the ways or areas we grow. And we usually will have one that calls us into a greater growth, versus another, like, sometimes we call it like, that's our hard area, but like, that's our opportunity area. That's our like greatest area to grow in.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to respect the time and stuff. You have another client coming up, and it's been a really wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm excited to go on my walk and listen to Abraham. It's been too long.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tanner, for having me on here, and good luck. Like, you are set, you are ready to explode in your business. And so, and this creating your reality. So that's exciting too.
Thank you. Well, yeah, before I let you go, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of share what's on your horizon, how people can get tapped into your work. Do you have anything you're promoting right now that you want to draw people's attention or vibrational energy to?
Yeah, so I love that. I love that question. We have a podcast. I co-host a podcast with another woman called Cassie Parks, and it's called Manifest It Now. And you can find it on all your favorite podcast apps. And so we have over 300 episodes just talking all about different manifesting, which we get into everything. And like I mentioned before, I have a new program coming in February 2022. It's actually going to start on 02020222, like all those numbers just for fun. And that's really going to be about, it's kind of a little bit more advanced by taking your manifesting to the next level and kind of manifesting from what Tanner and I were talking about, the place of source and connecting to your inner being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm really excited to follow your work. I'll make sure that I become a fan and, subscribe to your podcast and listen to it from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah,
really
it's been fun co-creating.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your presence today. It's been a joy to experience, someone that I've never met, but I can feel your vibrational energy is strong. And it's not just like a brief high. It's like a consistent state that you seem to, live in, which is, really admirable, something that I can continue to strive for and believe in myself. It's been a long season for me of the faith and commitment that this business is going to turn into something, and now it is. We have awesome employees, culture, money coming in, and I still get to do my podcast and read the books and do the meditations. Like, I was so nervous in the beginning that would go away. And it hasn't, and it's because I get to meet people like you that keep me right back there on the path. I just really appreciate that today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're doing it. It's happening.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jenny, for
Thanks,
being on the
Tanner.
show.